Hello everyone, let's review the results for April's 3-card blind main event tournament together. We have yet again seen another record for participation in this event. There were 235 players this month. Among those 235 players, we had 77 brand new players to the tournament. So if this was your first time playing 3-card blind, welcome and thanks for participating. I hope to see you again in the coming months. There were 171 unique decks submitted. If we weigh the cards submitted based off of their performance and evaluate them using the Simpsons Diversity Index, you will see that the diversity among decks that were performing well decreased compared to the prior month. The 3-card blind diversity grade for this month was a B-. For those of you who have been closely following this tournament's results, this is probably not a surprise. For April, we saw both Chancellor of the Annex and Jace Wielder of Mysteries unbanned, and these two extremely powerful cards had a strong effect on the meta and ultimately reduced the diversity of which decks performed well. Chancellor of the Annex had a 20% popularity this month, which is the highest popularity we have seen a single card have since Black Lotus was legal back in August of 2023. This means that Chancellor of the Annex had a huge impact on which decks were able to thrive in the meta. That being said, many of you came amply prepared to deal with Chancellor of the Annex, so Chancellor of the Annex actually only managed to get a 47% average score despite its massive popularity. The other of our two format boogeymen was Jace Wielder of Mysteries, which was much less popular at a 3.83% popularity, but it did have a 60% average score. As we continue through the results, it will become clear that Jace did have a significant impact on the meta, but the type of impact that Jace had was not nearly as overwhelming as Chancellor of the Annex's impact. In regards to the impact that Chancellor of the Annex had, it is very clear that skilled players managed to converge on a single strategy as to how to counter Chancellor of the Annex while remaining strong against other decks. The recipe for success was a Mox plus either a Manland or Rishadan port and a 2-drop. By playing the land first and then the Mox, the land can be used to pay for the Chancellor of the Annex tax on the Mox, leaving you free to play your 2-drop the following turn. However, this recipe for success gets even more specific. It wasn't just any Mox that people were playing. It was very specifically Mox Jet. Mox Jet was the second most popular card this month with a 12.77% popularity, which was more than all of the other Moxes combined by a significant margin. The reason for this is Black doesn't just have good 2-drops, it has what are likely the 3 best 2-drops in the format right now, and those cards are Bitter Blossom, Deep Cavern Bat, and Nezumi Shortfang. You will be hearing about these 3 cards quite a bit this video, so I'm going to move on to congratulating our winners. Let's start by looking at our 2 winning Jace Wielder of Mystery decks. Jerome in Group J was playing Chain of Vapor, Jace Wielder of Mysteries, and Surprising Cove. Group J contained a whopping 7 Chancellor of the Annex decks, so Jerome was able to take first place with relative ease despite Jace Wielder of Mysteries being a somewhat linear strategy. In Group I, Deskbot 000 was running Crystal Vein, Jace Wielder of Mysteries, and Lotus Bloom. This is truly an all-in deck with absolutely no backup plan, yet it managed to do extremely well. Jace's strong performance in general, I think, is an indication that people planned around Chancellor of the Annex far more than Jace Wielder of Mysteries. That being said, we did see Chancellor of the Annex win Group G. Clementina Cassiopeia ran Chancellor of the Annex, Fountain of Cho, and Path to Exile. There were 3 different Dark Depths lists in this pod, so Path to Exile really pulled its weight here and set Clementina ahead of other Chancellor of the Annex decks. Before we jump into the big pile of Mox Jet decks, let's cover the one deck that we saw that was truly unique and won its pod, which was Magic MLZ in Group E, who was playing Field of Ruin, Sunken Citadel, and Treetop Village. This is a very cool 3 lands deck, and we didn't see anything else like this month. Magic MLZ's deck was truly refreshing in a meta that was otherwise quite homogeneous. Because we've touched upon the Mox Jet decks already, I'm going to rattle through the remaining winners relatively quickly. In groups K, I, and H respectively, we had User, T-Pro202, and Dr. Chipmunk all playing Bitter Blossom, Mox Jet, and Rishadan Port. In group F and B respectively, we had Atris159 and Walthrus both playing Inkmoth Nexus, Mox Jet, and Nizumi Shortfang. In group C, we had Skydroid playing Deep Cavern Bat, Mox Jet, and Rishadan Port. And finally, in group D, we had Agender Apricot and 42, and in group A, we had Cadenus and Yabio all playing Mishra's Factory, Mox Jet, and Nizumi Shortfang. Now that is truly a remarkable number of Mox Jets taking the win. After all the dust has settled, Cadenus has landed on top of our lifetime leaderboard and is our new champion, with an ELO of 1874. I'd like to say congratulations to our winners one more time, and now let's move on to discussing the ban vote. Things are a bit trickier than usual this month. There are many extremely obvious and egregious offenders this month, but when it comes to the Mox Jet plus 2-drops decks, discussions on the Discord have revealed that there are differing opinions on how this situation should be handled with respect to the Moxes. Some players would like to see Mox Jet banned, others would like to see all of the Moxes banned, and some players would prefer the Moxes not to be touched at all. Seeing the results for this month may have provoked a knee-jerk reaction from many of you. I'd like to take a minute and re-examine this situation. There is no question that Chancellor of the Annex played a significant role in pushing these decks both to be popular and very effective. I suspect that the act of putting Chancellor of the Annex back on the ban list alone would probably have a pretty significant impact on reducing the prevalence of many of these Mox Jet decks. It is also likely that if the 3 biggest Mox Jet offenders were banned, that we wouldn't see this sort of problem moving forwards. For that reason, bundled in with the normal ban vote this month, we will have a pre-vote on the Moxes. The pre-vote will let you express your opinion on the Moxes and how they should be voted on next month. Either Mox Jet could be voted on exclusively, leaving the other Moxes at no risk of being banned, or all of the Moxes could be bundled together with their fates bound to each other. This will let us know how to handle the situation in the future, and will also give us one more month to see how the dust settles after these bans. The first card to be included as part of this ban vote is Chancellor of the Annex, which as we know is an extremely offensive card to many members of the community. Despite Chancellor of the Annex ultimately having a negative win rate this month, the prevalence of the card was extremely high, and playing with that card in the meta can be very frustrating. I think I speak on behalf of the majority here, but seeing Chancellor of the Annex should be something that only happens once in a blue moon. Next on the list we have Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Jace is unquestionably a very powerful card in this format, but it didn't take over the meta in the way that I thought it might. That being said, Jace, Wielder of Mysteries was a disruptive unban, and I do want to give the community the opportunity to express their opinion on whether they'd like to see the card remain legal or not. Our next card on the list is Deep Cavern Bat, which is the first of our Mox Jet abusing 2-drops that we need to talk about. Relative to the other Mox Jet abusing 2-drops, Deep Cavern Bat is probably the most tame. As a matter of fact, on first read through, this doesn't necessarily come off as a super strong card. After all, we've had cards like Mesmeric Fiend available for an extremely long time. It turns out that lifelink and flying are both extremely relevant keywords and can play into your odds of winning the race. Deep Cavern Bat has been steadily increasing in popularity and has become a go-to form of hand disruption in the format. It may not be the most offensive card on this list, but it certainly earned its place here. Next we have Nizumi Shortfang. And this card is really the whole package in one. Not only is it a form of hand disruption, but it is an insane threat. If it is not addressed immediately, you will both end up discarding a card and then you are staring down a 3/3 that has the rack glued to it. And finally we have Bitter Blossom, which I know I said in the previous month that we probably wouldn't need to vote on for a 3rd time in a row, but here we are. Bitter Blossom was the third most popular card this month, right behind Chancellor of the Annex and Mox Jet, and it has been repeatedly popping up in top decks across multiple months. After 3 months in a row where Bitter Blossom was a central card to the meta, ending in this Mox Jet fiasco, I would really love to see Bitter Blossom take its turn on the ban list. And that just about wraps it up for April. This was truly an exciting month, and possibly the only one we will have like it in a very long time. I'm really curious to see what the meta will look like next month. Thanks for watching everyone, and see you soon.